to you. Good morning to you. Good morning, won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning to you. Good good morning to you. And many more, and many more, and many more. Good morning, and welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host today, Shantae Charles, and it is Thinking Thursday and Theology Thursday. If you're with me for the first time, hit the like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for viewing. I'm going to go now and do what I have been sort of a little bit lax on doing just to see how people were going to behave and how people were going to respond in an adult way in the chat. And we haven't had a lot of people responding in a very adult way. So I am going to, let's see, make sure this comes up. I'm going to add some controls here, but they haven't come up yet. There we go. Before we get started. And again, good morning to those of you who have been with us, who have been subscribed to us, who have been sharing the broadcast, who have been listening in. Thank you so very much. The first thing that I want to start off with today is I want to start off with a devotional. Then I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about some of the issues and the news surrounding the new Pope. And then we're going to dive into failures of forgiveness, what we get wrong, and how to do better. We are on the second to last chapter, ending, entitled Forgiving Yourself. So let's start off with today is May 15th, and the topic is a credit to the race. I know some people have probably heard that phrase before when someone will say, and typically I don't think I've heard it outside of the Black community, but people would say you are a credit to the race or you are a credit to the race. Ronald McNair, the Challenger astronaut, said this: I had heard all kinds of rumors about MIT. They used to say that even the janitors at MIT had master's degrees. At first, I wasn't going, but then I couldn't run away from a challenge. I had to compete with the best. One of the best interpretations of success I have ever discovered is a training film that recounts the running of a marathon in a small town in Brown County, somewhere, USA. More than 100 runners were entered in the race, but the focus is only on three. The first is a young woman whose goal is to better her time by at least a few seconds. She knows that many of the marathoners can beat her best time, 3 hours and 58 minutes. Slow by running standard, but that doesn't concern her. Next, we met a young man who looks hopeful but not completely confident. His idea of success is simply finishing the marathon, something he failed to do in several attempts. He isn't interested in running a 350 or even a 450. For him, success will be simply crossing the finish line. The third runner is another young hopeful who has decided to go for broke. He's not sure he can win, but he is intrigued by reaching down inside to see how good he really is. The gun goes off, and all three runners break from the starting point with dozens of other entrants. Soon they spread out along the highways of Brown County, and settle in to run at their own pace. Who wins the race? Not any of these runners. A stranger new to the area grabs the honors. But does that mean that all the others lost? It depends on how you look at it. Externally, there can only be one winner, but internally, everyone can win. The finish line that really matters is not the one drawn by race directors, but the particular goals set in the mind of each participant. As in life, no one needs to be a loser. The real prize is not first place, but competing in the race itself with oneself. By doing my best, I will win the race of my life. And that's something I actually practice. I like to say I'm competing against myself. Every day is me versus me. Trying to get better, trying to learn something new, trying to learn something more, trying to be better at my profession, trying to help students and help teachers and advocate for parents in a greater way. So I actually uh, appreciate today's message on winning. How many of you have a goal where you know that you're really competing against yourself? You're not necessarily competing against anybody else. All right, let's talk very briefly about the new pope. There has been some conversation. I wouldn't necessarily say controversy, but there's definitely been some conversation around Pope Leo the 14th, previously known as Robert Francis Prevost. Um, and let me start out by saying that I am not Catholic. Um, I would be considered probably um, a person who is embedded in spirituality and a person who comes from the traditions of the Protestant faith because of my previous um, religious affiliations and backgrounds. So I am not Catholic. I am not here to bash Catholicism. I'm not even here to bash the Pope, okay? I'm just going to talk to you about some of the conversations that are going on. All right. Okay. I tried to have part of this conversation online on my page, but people just started coming from out of the blue. And some people were saying really inappropriate stuff. Some people were like, F the Pope. Some people were like, oh, this is our great leader. Like, I get it. But as for this discussion, I am not here to um, disparage or anything like that. We're simply going to talk about what's been talked about. Okay. So Pope Leo the 14th, previously known as Robert Francis Prevost, he is purported to have a progressive stance. I don't think that that is true. I think that he has a mixed bag of a stance just on some of the things that I have read and some of the um, social media posts that he has put out. So I believe he has a progressive stance in certain things and a very conservative stance in others. All right. Most people say that because of some of his progressive stances, they feel like he does align with the previous Pope, Pope Francis, on issues like environmental protection, migration, immigration, the need for the church to address systemic racism. So I have seen posts of his that sort of talk about those three things. He has also, though, expressed concerns about what he views as harmful cultural trends, particularly regarding same sex relationships and the Western media's promotion of what he deems as anti Christian lifestyles. Okay. So he has sort of railed against the misuse of the environmental resources. He made a speech calling for the church to take greater action against the destruction of the planet. Now, most people recognize that I have said several times you cannot call for taking action against the destruction of the planet while ignoring Black women or disrespecting Black people. I don't know when those two things are going to align in people's brains, but you can't call for the preservation of the planet and the environment while destroying mitochondrial Eve, the source code DNA of humanity. Without us, there is no everybody else. So when we talk about preserving and protecting the environment, I always find it interesting that people skip past protecting Black people and Black women. All right. Let's take a look at some other things here. 6 days ago, Time Magazine um, put up an article about where he stands on LGBTQ rights, on women and the climate. So I'm going to go to that. And so, again, people are sort of moving away from this idea that he is a progressive. And as people find out more about him, Time Magazine calls him a centrist, which I feel like is a little more accurate. He is an Illinois native who has dual citizenship from the US and Peru, and he spoke in Italian and Spanish during his first address to the public, during which he emphasized peace. So let's go to what we know so far about the new Pope's stances on key issues. The Catholic Church has been firm on its stance that homosexuality is a sin and that same-sex couples cannot be married within the church. In October 2023, a letter by Francis in support of the blessings of same-sex unions on a case-by-case basis was made public. So that has been the most recent stance. He said, quote, "We cannot be judges who only deny, push back, and exclude." Francis wrote to a group of conservative cardinals, "As such, pastoral prudence must adequately discern whether there are forms of blessings requested by one or several people that do not convey a wrong idea of what matrimony is. Because when one seeks a blessing, one is requesting help from God, not necessarily sanctioning of one's beliefs." Leo's stance on LGBTQ Catholics marks a departure from Pope Francis, according to the Cardinal's report on him. In October 2024, Prevost voiced the need for greater conversations between each Episcopal conference to discuss the blessings of same-sex couples and apply them in a way that align with cultural differences across the globe, as some countries still criminalize homosexuality as a whole. The bishops in the Episcopal conferences of Africa were basically saying that here in Africa, our whole cultural reality is very different. It wasn't rejecting the teaching authority of Rome. It was saying that our cultural situation is such that the application of this document is not just going to work. You have to remember that there are still places in Africa that apply the death penalty, for example, for people who are living in a homosexual relationship. So we are in very different words, i.e., just because something is okay in your culture doesn't mean it's okay in another culture. And sovereign nations have the right to determine what the culture is for their country. Okay, so that was that. Helping migrants. Pope Leo's stance on the migrant falls in line with that of Pope Francis. Jesus Leon Angeles, a coordinator of the Peruvian Catholic group who personally knows Prevost, told Reuters that the new pontiff had always shown care for Venezuelan migrants in Peru. Francis, the previous pope, was a strong supporter of migrants, expressing his support for the community in a letter in February. Equality for women. And so this is where I go back to saying he is not progressive in all areas. He is a centrist. Pope Leo has been firm in his stance against the ordainment of women, falling in line with Francis's opinion. Something that needs to be said also is that ordaining women, and there's been some women that have said this interestingly enough, clericalizing women doesn't necessarily solve a problem. it might make a new problem. This was said in October 2023. So the role of women under him would probably continue to be minimized within Catholicism. However, he did appoint to the appointment of women a higher leadership position under Francis, as evident that women contribute a great deal to the life of the church. I find that to be humorous because most women are the lifeblood of religious entities, period, unless you're talking about the Muslim faith. Um, and so, this idea that women contribute to the faith versus there really wouldn't be a faith without women and their great involvement in it. Again, that is a very conservative stance. Climate change, we have already talked about. So those are where he stands. This is, again, the article is from Time Magazine, and it is called Where Pope Leo Stands on Specific Issues. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about, just very briefly, is his heritage. Excuse me. Recently, in recent days, his African heritage, his mixed racial heritage has come to the forefront. And even when it did come to the forefront and I started seeing all of these think pieces come out, I said, I know I love Black people, but sometimes we are so quick to rush to a judgment in terms of welcoming people or letting people in. And so I just kind of hung back a little bit and I said, before we start clapping and saying, oh, we have a Black Pope, because there have been Black popes in previous history, just not in modern history. Okay, so there have been African popes in the past. But before we start applauding and clapping, let's find out what his stances are, which we just read. And let's pay attention to how he responds to his heritage being uncovered in a public way. So, recently, a statement came out about, even though he has African heritage, he does not identify as Black. So let's see if I can get anything up here. All right. So while Pope Leo XIV's maternal ancestry can be traced back to Creole people of color from New Orleans, Louisiana, it's not publicly known how he personally identifies racially. Okay. His Creole ancestry, his maternal grandparents were of Creole descent, and some historical records, describe them as Black or of mixed race. His family's identification, Pope Leo's brother stated that the family does not identify as Black. Whether he has ever publicly commented on his racial identity is currently unknown. Okay. His personal racial identification remains unknown. He is Black. Most people are saying, yes, he is Black because of his genetic heritage. Okay. But again, his older brother said the family did not identify as Black. That is their choice, of course, a choice that many mixed race people have made for 2 centuries. There is a term called passe blanc, where people who left the South and moved up north and chose to pass as white, they did that. Some of those people passed as white, did not tell their successive generations. And so their successive generations continued to believe that they were white and had no African ancestry at all. That could be the case of the Pope. All right. But people had very, very strong opinions about this. Some people said, um, a part of his job is to tell the truth. So he doesn't necessarily have to identify as Black, but simply coming out and saying, yes, I acknowledge and respect that aspect of my heritage, I think that would be fine. I don't think anybody, if he is identified as a white man his entire life, or a Latin man his entire life, I don't think people would be upset by that because he is learning as we are learning. But some people do find it to be problematic if you're going to lead people while not acknowledging that part of yourself. They find it to be disingenuous. So let's take a look at one more thing. I want to make sure I give you an actual data here. And some people feel like this is important because it is estimated that there are roughly 200 million Catholics of African descent worldwide, with the vast majority, over 173 million of them, residing in Africa. So you are serving a large swath of African people or people of African descent. It would it would sort of be weird to be silent on that part of your heritage. I also want to point out that there are people who say, let him stay over there, because we know that genetically, yes, some people may say, yes, genetically, he has Black ancestry, has Black heritage, but Black is also a culture. Black is your lived experience. Black is your historical connection, right? So there are some people that say it's not just the fact that he has um, genetic ancestry that makes him Black. There are other components that make someone Black. I have 31% non-African heritage. Does that make me white? Absolutely not. I don't get any white privileges here. Okay. So I think that is important to note. I think that's necessary to note. Last fact I'm going to give you. When people talk about him being a centrist versus being a conservative versus being a progressive, in the 2024 presidential election, felon in chief won a majority of the Catholic vote, marking an increase in support compared to the 2020 election. Okay. Overall, approximately 53 to 58% of Catholics voted for the felon. This represents a gain from 2020, when the Catholic vote was nearly evenly split between the felon and Biden. His support was stronger amongst white Catholics, with around 59 to 61% voting for him, while a majority of Hispanic Catholics still voted for Kamala at 55%. There was a shift towards the Republican Party compared to the previous years, where the majority had supported Biden. A significant majority, 66% of Catholics who attend Mass at least once a week, voted for the felon in chief. So he's got his work cut out for him in terms of the American representation of Catholics, if not everybody else. Um, he has a strong stance, like we said, on anti racism. But my challenge would be, even though you have this strong stance, there hasn't been a lot of the Catholic Church saying, we want to make repair for our part in things like the transatlantic slave trade. They have come out and addressed the dum diversas, which was in the papal decrees, which were the documents that sort of, how do I want to say this, um, rubber stamped people going out and enslaving other people that were not of the faith, right? So they have sort of talked about that and addressed that. But when it comes to tangible reparations, conversation stops. So I am wondering, how much will happen under this new leadership where this Pope will say, I think we need to begin to start addressing in a tangible way our role in the transatlantic slave trade and how that would affect his approval amongst those that he will be leading. Okay. So I hope I gave you a good summary. Hope I shared a little bit about what some of the conversations have been. A lot of people said, hey, if he has African ancestry, that's great that he's learning about his heritage. But if he's never identified as a Black person at this point, I would prefer he not. He can honor and respect his African ancestry and heritage while not trying to say, I'm a Black person now. What I said to that was, I don't think he would identify publicly as Black because we all saw what happened with Kamala. We saw how people treated Kamala. We saw what people did to Kamala when she tried to identify with her Black heritage. People absolutely excoriated her in this country. And I don't think that he would get any less treatment than excoriation. And I sort of made a reel about this saying, not people trying to ignore that race plays a part, number one, in our world, but number two, in the whole foundation and bedrock of America. Not us trying to act like it doesn't matter. It does matter. This whole country was founded on free labor and racial caste. It absolutely matters what he identifies as. And so most people would say, hey, acknowledge your African heritage. Don't be afraid to acknowledge your African heritage. And at the same time, no, you don't have to identify as a Black person. If that's not your cultural connection, that's not your cultural experience, that hasn't been your cultural experience, why would you identify now? But to act like it doesn't matter, especially in America, it does. It does. Um, yeah. So that's that. I don't think that we're going to have time to get to the failures of forgiveness today. I do know that I want to chop it up about this topic. So we will hold on to failures of forgiveness until next Thursday, as the Creator wills. Let's hope we're all here next Thursday. Okay. All right. Trying to see if I have anything else here that has been a part of the conversation. Yeah. So my final thought on this is this new Pope coming in, as far as his American side, American delegation, he is probably, I would say he's probably more aligned with American conservatism than he is with worldwide progressivism, if that makes sense. When it comes to LGBTQ, he probably more likely aligns with the conservative Americans or the conservative Africans. When it comes to women and their role in their leadership, again, he aligns more with the conservatives. When it comes to issues, again, like the environment, he does not, he aligns more with a progressive outlook. Okay. So, environment, he does well. Immigration, that's probably his biggest schism between the American side and how he identifies or how he aligns. And then addressing systemic racism, he definitely does not align with America because we are in the midst of a whole bunch of systemic and increasingly uh, systemic racial problems here in the United States. All right, so that is that. Let's chop it up a little bit about this. And if you have been watching for 10 minutes or longer and subscribe, you should be able to add your comments into the comment section. Pastor Ben, I'm going to go ahead and see if it will bring you in the very first time. As we are waiting, let's see what we have here from the Art of Escape. In all of everything that is happening in our world, and especially here in the United States with this unrest, it is important for us to rest. It is important for us to be intentional in our thoughts surrounding rest. This is coming from We Will Rest, The Art of Escape by Dr. Tricia Hersey, best-selling author of Rest is Resistance, which is something that we have read in the past. It's her other book. I highly recommend it. Rest is a spiritual practice. Rest is a justice practice. Rest is a love practice. Rest is a care practice. Rest is a faith practice. Rest is an anti war practice. Rest is an anti capitalist practice. Rest is a freedom seeking practice. Rest is a connection to the Creator. Rest is a connection to your ancestors. All right, let me try again. Trying again. All right, I have added it again. Rest is a connection to spirit. Rest is a connection to nature. Rest is a connection to the divine. Rest is refusal. Rest is life giving. Rest is power. Rest is medicine. Rest is heaven. Rest is now. Grind culture has stolen our imagination. Our thinking is limited because we are deeply disconnected, exhausted, and sleep deprived. We don't believe we are worthy of anything unless we burn ourselves out to accomplish it. Focus on the escape. Focus on the transformation. You can be free. Everything is fair in rest and escape. Good morning.
Good
Good
morning. The
morning. The
volume is
volume is
very low.
very low. Okay. I have my volume up as high as I can get it.
Okay, it's just
Is
better
this
now. It's
better now?
getting
It's
better.
getting better. Hello, hello. Is that
Hello?
better? Hello. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I can hear you very clearly. I can hear
Okay.
you very clearly.
Um,
Um,
I'm
I'm
going
going
to
to talk
talk
about the
about the
Pope a
pulpit
little bit. Mm-hmm. Because
because
when the
when the
information
information
first
first came
came out,
out,
mm-hmm, my
my
words
words
were,
were,
these
these
racist
racist
white
white
folks
folks
gonna
gonna
lose
lose
their
their
mind.
mind, and they
Indeed.
are.
Yeah, some of them are. Mm-hmm.
And
And,
and
and,
and
and,
and
and
the
the
fella in
fella in
charge
charge
had
had
praised
praised
him
him
before the
before the
information
information
came
came
out.
out. Mm-hmm.
I'm
I'm
waiting to
waiting to
hear his
hear his
response
response
now.
now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So,
but
but
this is my
this is
take
my
on
take
what's
on what's
happening.
happening.
The
The
majority of
majority of
America,
America,
especially white
especially white
America,
America,
see the
see
Pope
the Pope
as the
as
person
the
next to
person
Christ.
next to Christ. Mm-hmm.
But the language
But
that
the
they're
language that
using
they're using
against him,
against him, the title of him is Vicari Fili Dei, which means in the place of Christ.
hmm
So yeah, he's supposed to
yeah,
be
but
in their belief he is God on he's God's representative on earth or God on earth.
hmm
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
and the
And
way
the
they're
way they're
attacking him
attacking him
and the
and the
language that they're
language that they're
using,
using,
That lets you know that their belief is really garbage. I really believe that this man was standing in the place of God.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to come against him? I don't think so.
Good point.
I really don't. But I'm gonna tell you another take that I got on this. Most of us,
That are woke know that Christ is black. Now, the Pope, according to them,
Mm-hmm.
is basically the representation of God.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna tell you, I think God did this. I think he said, I'm
I'm gonna
gonna
give
give
y'all a
y'all a
little
little
taste. I'm
taste.
gonna
I'm
give
gonna give
y'all a
y'all a
little
little
bit of a
bit of a
black
black
person
person
right here
right
on
here on
earth.
earth.
In the modern history.
The
The
person that
person
you
that you
think
think
represent,
represent,
yeah,
yeah,
the, per-
the, per-
the
the
person you
person you
think
think
represents
represents
me.
me.
I'm gonna
I'm
give
gonna
you
give you
that,
that,
and we're
and
gonna
we're
see
gonna
how
see
you
how you
respond to him.
respond to him.
Because when
Because when
y'all
y'all
get up
get up
here,
here,
you gonna see
you're gonna see
the real
the
thing, and
real
he
thing,
gonna
and
be
he gonna
black.
be black.
Ooh, child.
Well, see, you and I know that God has a sense of humor.
I always say, if you have a problem with black people on earth, you probably don't want to go to heaven.
Right.
Right.
You probably don't want to go there because from the accounts, it says every tribe, every language, every people group.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be able to be in heaven saying, "Speak American." You're not going to be walking around heaven all day talking about, "Speak American." But then again, we know that their idea of heaven, right,
Or,
does not include people of color at all, or it only includes people of color as serving them. If you go read some of the white supremacist doctrine, they feel like your place in
mm-hmm.
heaven is going to be
Mm-hmm.
serving them in the afterlife. So much so to the point where if you go and look at some of the older plantation graves or cemeteries, the master would bury his servants away from their families, and they would bury almost sort of like ancient Egypt, how they would bury certain things with them that they believe would come with them in the afterlife. They would bury some enslaved persons at the foot of their grave, and it would be enclosed off and fenced off. You can look this up online. For people who are interested, it would be a little closed off area with their plot, their family plot, and then you would see little sort of unmarked graves around the master's plot. And it was because they felt like these were my good enslaved persons that are going to be serving me in the afterlife. Do you understand how delusional you have to be to bury
And they are.
enslaved persons at the foot of your grave because you think that you're going to take them into the afterlife to serve you? That's some deeply embedded delusion.
Listen,
Listen,
the
the
delusion
delusion
has
has
been
been
proven
proven
over
over
and
and
over
over
again,
again,
and
and
even
even
more
more
so
so
with
with
this
this
administration
administration
than
than
ever
ever
before.
before.
As we talk, I know we didn't get into forgiveness today, but there is some talk about um, a pardoning getting ready to happen for chauvinistic.
For
Mm-hmm.
who?
And the person that they have appointed as the pardon czar happens to be a black woman who was pardoned herself through the advocacy of Kim Kardashian during his first term. Um, I think most black people recognize that this is an attempt at a provocation of the community, to say that, well, we will pardon him for the federal charges, but also recognizing he is not going to be released just because he might be pardoned on the federal level. He is going to remain behind bars at least for 20 years, um, from his state charges. And I do know that there are reports that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, they are preparing for possible unrest if he is pardoned on the federal level. Now, my thing is, I think enough black people know that this is yet another provocation trying to get us out into the streets, trying to get us protesting, so that they can declare martial law and harm us. I think most black people have come to that realization. And the other realization, I think most black people have pretty much said, if America wants to burn itself down to the ground, then who are we to stop them? Who are we to stop y'all?
Mm-hmm.
If that's what y'all want to do, if y'all want to go scorched earth, who are we to stop you? Because at the end of the day, most of us know and trust that our Creator is going to keep us in the midst of all of this. So no matter what stream of faith you come from, that's one thing that I have seen consistently is our Creator has us.
Mm-hmm.
You can go scorched earth and try to tear everything up and burn everything down, but at the end of the day, um, we've been resisting since before 1619. We've been resisting since before we got to these shores. We've been resisting on African shores, and we just will keep on resisting. Now, that resistance may not look the way our adversaries in the flesh want it to look, and I think that too is throwing them off. Why aren't these people? I'm going to tell you why. Because most of us have decided to put you in the hands of the Creator and trust and believe He can do a better job of flipping everything than we ever
What's
could.
up, old man?
And and that,
And
and
that
that and
And
that's
that's
what they
what they
don't
don't
get.
get.
Somehow
Somehow they talk about God, but then again, their
the
God
one
is
that
the one
said
that
that
said that
chief
Melanin Chief will win in
and he
2020, and he
didn't.
didn't.
And then they turned
Then
around
they
and said
turned
that
around and
man
said that
stole the
man
election
stole the
from
election
God.
from God.
So apparently
So
God
apparently
is not
God
all
is not all
powerful to
powerful
them.
to them. So they can be whatever their will is. That's what His will is supposed to be. They got it mixed up. See,
Go
we're
down on
gonna
our
go
knees
down on
and
our knees
pray.
and pray,
And God gonna
and God gonna take it from there. See, we gonna let Him do what He do.
And I want people to
Moses,
understand,
that's Moses and the
That's
children of
Moses and the
Israel
children of Israel
and I want people to understand
crossing the Red
crossing
Sea.
the Red Sea.
I want people to understand that prayer is not a passive thing. It's not a passive thing. And I also want people to know that, um, other actions besides getting to into the street are occurring. Taking your dollar,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
taking your dollar and marching your dollar into the black community is probably one of the very best protests you could do right at this moment.
Hmm.
In every way that you can, rerouting your dollar away from racist. In every way that you can, rerouting your resources away from racists,
Hmm.
rerouting your organizing away from racists. And because so many black people have taken that perspective, it has become almost like a challenge now to say, let's see if we can get those Negroes out into the streets. It's
Mhm.
almost as if our choosing to transmute our energy, to transmute what we see happening into something constructive for our community, it's almost a challenge for them now to say, let's see how we can provoke them to get them to move into destruction. And I am so proud. Let me say this. Ooh, I am so proud of all of the black communities, the black diaspora, not taking the bait. And I want to encourage you to continue to not take the bait. Look around you. There is so much that needs to be done in our communities. There are so many things that need to be taken care of in our communities. And we know we're going to hear people say, "Oh, you guys don't care about this. You guys don't care about that." No, we care about our communities. Remember, you said we don't care about our communities. You said we let our communities fall apart. You said, that parents are not in the household. You said that fathers are not there. So when we're doing all of the things that you said we don't do, then you get upset and you want to draw us out into an ineffective war. But an effective
Mhm.
war, but an effective war is training your children. An effective war is teaching your children. An effective war is caring for your communities. An effective war is funding your own projects. An effective war is making sure more businesses are established. An effective war is loving on the black women and black children and black men in your communities. That's an effective war. And so they want you tangled up and tied up into ineffective things right now. So most of us, thank you, We Dare Squad in the comments. Most of us recognize that we gotta build and we gotta battle differently. We gotta have a sword in one
Mhm.
hand, and we gotta have a hammer or a chisel in the other. But we are not coming down, Sandballad and Tobiases. We're not coming down. We're not coming down. We see the play. We see the play. We see the ploys, and we're not coming down. And I think that's part of what is freaking some of these people out is how many black people who see the play. And we haven't had to have a gathering to see the play. It's that collective
Right.
consciousness. And I think that is what scares them the most. Because if we are this in tune with what should happen right now and we haven't had a conference yet. We haven't called a conference. I know white people think we have, but we haven't. And
Mm-mm.
that should scare you.
It's a,
It's
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 it's that
it's that
it's that
it's that
melanin
melanin
connection
connection
that's
that's
connected with the
connected with the
universe and
universe
God
and God
Himself.
Himself.
Mm-hmm. Who said, sit this? I'm going to tell you what God told me. Sit this one out. I got it.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Sit this one out. I got it. I'm going to show them better than I can tell them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to help them to understand what it's like to be Negro in America. And so we often talk about black people who leave the community, get their Negro card pulled. Well, guess what? People who have been against black people are getting their Negro card pulled. And they're like, wait, wait, I'm not a Negro. I'm not a Negro. What's going on here? You're getting your Negro card pulled. And it's not just the administration pulling it, it's the creator pulling it. He wants you
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
to understand what black people have been trying to tell you and show you about this nation for centuries. You couldn't understand it. You couldn't get it. You couldn't understand. I mean, if you're saying that you've done everything you're supposed to do, if you're saying, you've done the right things and you went to school and you got your education, we don't understand why your unemployment rate is so high. Well, you're about to understand.
Mm-mm.
You're about to understand. You're doing everything you can in your community, and we don't understand why your community just looks so decrepit and downtrodden. We don't understand. Well, these laws are about to help you understand. These laws are
Mm-hmm.
about to help you understand. These policies are about to help you understand what black people have been trying to tell you. We've been trying to tell you that racism is spelled Policy, but you couldn't see it because the policies favored you. But what happens when an entire nation gets a policy code that only favors the 0.1%? What happens? You know what happens? Everybody starts feeling like they are a Negro in America. That is what happens. And so when you see black people being calm, it's because the things that people are railing about right now, black people have been telling you all it was an issue. We've been telling you about food insecurity. We've been telling you about environmental racism. You got a town right now in Mississippi that is swimming in fecal matter because of environmental racism. And now it's not just going to be that one town. And so it is not that black people don't have empathy for what's going on. It is the fact that we do understand what's going on, that we can
Mm-hmm.
that we can rest in the fact that the truth is now being revealed. These policies are now revealing the true hearts of people that you thought were for you when they've never been for you. They have only been for money and for self interest. You thought it was something else. You thought it was your whiteness that was helping you get in the door. No, they are showing you that they don't care what ethnicity you are. They only care about their own self interest and money, particularly extracting as much money as they can out of this country, funneling it into their own pockets and into their own secret accounts. And when they crash everything, they're going to run off with the money and your retirement and your social security in their $400 million jet given to them by a
Mm-hmm.
foreign government.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say believe black women and listen to black women, I just want to know if y'all ready to do that yet. Because you had an opportunity to choose someone that would have tried to at least protect your interests in this country. You had that choice. And so now you're getting the Negro card. That's what you're getting. If you are trying to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what is going on, if you're a non-black person, you're trying to figure out why is this happening, what's going on. You're getting the Negro treatment in America from someone who promised you they were only going to harm Negroes. Surprise, surprise. As the song says, they promised you that they were only going to harm Negroes, and you cheered for it. Well, now
Mm-hmm.
they have said, surprise, surprise, we came to harm everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Final
You
thoughts.
voted for
Voted
your
for your
you voted
you
for your
voted for
self
your self
interest,
interest,
but you
but
voted
you voted
against
against
yourself.
yourself.
Mhm.
And we've been
And we've been
telling
telling
y'all
y'all
that everything they want
everything
to
they
do
want
to
to do to
everybody,
everybody,
they try it
they
on
try
us
it on us
first
first
Mm-hmm. Yep.
to
to
desensitize.
desensitize y'all
Mm-hmm.
and make y'all think that it's about us.
Mm-hmm.
No,
It's about the destruction of
out control
humanity.
and wealth. Yeah, yeah. So
And so this is a
here
hard
we
Here
are.
we
lesson.
are.
This is a hard lesson, but
Mm-hmm.
if we come out of it, and I'm definitely saying if we come out of it, hopefully we will come out of it as a people who knows that it is as Senator Booker said, it is not left or right. It is right versus wrong. Hopefully, if we come out of this,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
people will come out with a better conscience to say what I wished on someone else has come upon me. People have said that they don't think that there are certain people that can be saved. I said part of this, I believe, is supposed to help people develop the empathy that they didn't have. Because for so long, there has been an empathy deficit. There's been people who said, I just can't identify. I just could not imagine what it'd be like to be black in this country. Well, your imagination has just been widened.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So hopefully through this process, hopefully empathy will increase so that we can know that we won't ever want to come back to this point in history ever again. Now, I don't know if that is going to be true for everybody, but I feel like a large majority of people will finally have that empathy increase in them to understand that as MLK has wisdomly said, that an injustice anywhere, a threat to justice anywhere, is a threat to justice everywhere. And if you sit back on your laurels and you say nothing while the injustice happens over here, decade after decade, year after year, you're seeing what's being done to black people, you're seeing the inequality, and you just keep saying, well, that's just the way things are. That's just the hand in life that we're dealt. I just couldn't imagine what it would be like. Well, now you are getting to imagine. Not only are you getting to imagine, you're getting to live it. Not only are you getting to live it, you're getting to understand that these are circumstances that are created. They didn't just come out of nowhere, they're created. You're getting a taste of what it feels like to be in a created policy that brings immediate destruction to your life. And then people come and say, what's wrong with you? I don't understand why you're not doing well. Um, maybe the policies that you just enacted might have something to do with that. And when black people say it's systemic, now you can literally physically see that it's systemic because now these policies that are being enacted are systemically affecting you. Now you might come to realize that you just can't get out of it by yourself and pull yourself up by your bootstraps because a whole system is being designed to destroy your livelihood, to destroy your future, to extract money out of your accounts. Now maybe you can stop saying that black people are just lazy and they don't want to work. Maybe now you can stop saying that. Maybe now that refrain can leave your exit your lips to never return. Because maybe now you realize I work hard, I get to my 20 years, my 25 years, my 30 years, and everything gets stripped from under me. And I wasn't lazy, but I literally got shafted by policy. Maybe you can see clearly now because the haze is gone. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. Um, in the words of Monique, I love y'all for real. I love y'all for real. But yeah, just remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness. Find your way to the light. Make your way to the light. Make your way to the spaces where people will tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. But the reality is, everybody in America is getting a Negro card right now. If you're not a billionaire, if you're not in the 0.1%, you're getting the Negro card right now. So I want you to reflect on that. I want you to sit with that. I want you to think about the ways in which your life, maybe in this moment, is being upended. I want you to think about whether or not you feel like your life deserves to be upended. And then I want you to think about your black friends, if you have any. And I want you to call them. And I want you to ask them one question. Is this what it's like to be black in America? And see what they say. Say, say no, for real. I really, I have a question for you. This black woman online told me to come to my black friends and ask them, as we're experiencing what's happening in this nation, is this what it's like to be black in America? All right. Go out and be what,
Uh-huh.
Pastor Ben?
Light.
Light. Take care, everyone. And as the Creator wills, we will see you tomorrow. We'll be talking health and finance. Be well and be light.